Wife forces husband to cheat with boss's wife. Beth got up early that morning as she was excited about the day ahead. She had a hard time falling asleep, and from the way she tossed and turned all night, I don't think she got much sleep. After she finally came out of the bedroom, I fell asleep again and slept until almost 10 a.m. We were invited to a party at her boss's house, and she was excited about it. These parties used to be exclusively for partners and upper management. She had been working hard for months on a big contract, and it had been finalized last week, which meant big money for the firm and for her. She hoped it would be a prelude to a promotion to senior vice president of the firm. Beth deserved that promotion and was as excited about it as I was. I got up and made my way to the kitchen where she was busy working, so I'm sure she wouldn't be distracted from the party. She came over to me with a big smile on her face, gave me a big hug, and said, "Good morning, sweetie." I answered her sleepily, "Good morning, sunshine." She asked, "How did you sleep last night?" I replied, "I slept like a baby when you weren't stirring." She said, "I'm sorry. I just had trouble sleeping. I was thinking about tonight." I replied, "It's okay. I know you're really worried about it, and I'm so proud of you." She kissed me and said, "Would you like to have breakfast or maybe lunch?" I told her, just a muffin or something simple is fine. The rest of the day went as usual. We did chores around the house, mowing and cleaning. Around 5 p.m., Beth said, "We should get ready." The party was starting at 8 p.m., and I realized she couldn't wait any longer. She went into the shower and started getting ready. I walked into the bathroom just as she was getting out of the shower. The sight of Beth's naked body, even after 10 years of marriage, still makes me instantly horny. Beth is about 5 feet 10 inches tall, has a slim waist and a flat stomach. She has long blonde hair and 36D breasts. She turned to look at me and then lowered her gaze my body. She said, "We don't have time for this right now. We'll get to it later." She wrapped a towel around her and went to the bathroom to fix her hair and apply her makeup. I got in the shower and rinsed off the dirt left over from a full day of yard work. Beth moved into the bedroom to pick out her outfit for tonight. She stood in front of her closet, going through her clothes, looking for the perfect outfit. Eventually, she settled on one of my favorites. It was quite conservative, yet the silk material of the dress fit every curve of her body. It was cut deep enough in the front to be very sexy and show off her ample cleavage. In the back, the dress was backless. I always had a hard time containing my attraction to her when she wore it. She reached into the dresser and pulled out a garter belt, stockings, and a pair of matching panties. After putting on the garter belt, stockings, and panties, she turned to me and said, "Maybe I can get a promotion if I walk around dressed like this." I shook my head affirmatively and said, "Absolutely. But if you keep walking around like that, we might never get to the party." She seductively walked over to me, rubbed herself lightly against my chest, and said, "I promised you that you would be well taken care of tonight." When she looked up at me, I replied, "I'll keep that promise to you." She smiled and turned away to get dressed. I was ready and waited in the family room for her to finish getting ready. She walked into the room and was absolutely beautiful, as she always was. But today there was some special spark and glow about her. She asked, "Are you ready to go?" I replied, "I would follow you anywhere." As we were driving to her boss's house, she looked at me and said, "You know how important tonight is to my career and to our financial future, don't you?" I looked at her and replied, "Of course I do." She said, "I want everything to go perfectly tonight. Please be the charming gentleman that you are and dazzle everyone here. The firm likes to know that spouses support their executives 100%. I replied, "Honey, don't worry about me. I will be on my best behavior." We pulled up to her boss's driveway and were met by the valet. I said, "They sure do throw all their parties." She replied, "You have no idea." At that moment, it didn't strike me as an unusual comment. We walked to the door, the butler greeted us and opened the door. We stepped inside, and to say their home is stunning is an inaccurate description. The foyer was clad in white marble, and there was a beautiful staircase leading to the next floor. There was a beautiful chandelier hanging in the foyer. The interior was in white and cream colors, and piano music was in the air. A nice-looking couple, who I guessed were in their early 40s, approached us, and he said, "Beth, Mary and I are so glad you and your husband were able to come today." Beth introduced me to them. "Mr. Rollins, I'd like you to meet my husband, Derek." He replied, "Please call me Tom, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Derek. This is my wife, Mary." I reached out and shook Tom's hand, then reached out to Mary, and she took my hand, and I said, "It's very nice to meet you, too." Tom said, "Please make yourself at home. Have a drink and mingle with the rest of our guests." Beth and I went inside, and she immediately began meeting her co-workers and introducing me to them. We chatted and shook hands for a while, and eventually Beth struck up a conversation with some of her co-workers about work issues. I excused myself to grab another drink at the bar. I walked over to the bar, ordered another drink, and was already sipping it when Mary Rollins walked over to me and plunked down next to me. I was sure she had accidentally touched my arm with her breasts. She said, "Beth said she had a tall, handsome husband, but I didn't realize she actually meant a handsome husband." Mary, as I said, was in her early 40s and a stunning brunette. She had large, full breasts and a slim waist. She was wearing a dress with a deep neckline in the front, and when she moved, her breasts were partially visible. I said, "Thank you, Mrs. Rollins." And she interrupted and said, "Mary, please." I replied, "Mary, thank you for the compliment. You know how to make a man feel special." She looked me straight in the eye, rubbed her breasts against my arm again, and said, "You have no idea." There was that comment again. I looked at Beth. She was watching and just winked at me. I thought she might be a little upset that a beautiful woman was standing so close to me and actually rubbing her breasts against me. I looked at Mary and said, "Thank you for your wonderful hospitality, but I'd better find my wife now." Mary then shocked me by grabbing my body. She said, "You are so beautiful and attractive." She looked me straight in the eyes again to see my reaction. I quickly shifted my gaze to Beth. She was looking at me and smiling. I wondered what was going on. Beth had never had an attitude about other women flirting with me, much less touching me. I whispered, "Mary, thanks again, but I think Beth is looking for me." I stepped back and headed over to Beth. She had a disappointed look on her face, and as I approached her, she asked, "What are you doing?" I replied, "Beth, she attacked me." Beth whispered, "I know. You promised me you would behave today. This is my boss's wife, and she helps him decide who to promote." I replied in surprise, "So, you want me to let you flirt with me?" Beth replied, "I didn't want to scare you before we got there. There is a rumor in the company that whenever they want to promote someone, they invite them to one of their parties. If they want to promote a woman, Mary checks out the husband, and if a man, Tom checks out the wife. I never knew for sure if this was true or just a story. Apparently, judging from your and Mary's acquaintance, it's true." I was stunned and said, "So you want me to play along with her so you can get that promotion?" Beth replied, "These little parties also have the purpose of being a sex party." She looked at me for a reaction, and I'm not sure I had one because I was stunned. Then she added, "Honey, it's just sex, not love. Play along with me, see what happens, and if Mary wants to play with you, let her. We need this advancement." I said, "I need another drink." I walked back to the bar and ordered a double. When I looked back at Beth, she had already stepped away, and I couldn't find her. Taking my drink, I walked out the back doors onto the beautiful porch and leaned against the railing. I stood looking out into the darkness and suddenly felt two hands on my body. I quickly turned around. Mary was there. When I turned around, she quickly grabbed me. She had unzipped the front of her dress and her magnificent breasts were peeking out. She began to caress my body. She said, "Derek, I am very attracted to you. You know that I have the right to decide who gets promoted in the company. Beth has worked very hard for this promotion, and I would hate for you to ruin it." She said, "Derek, you have a great body, and I want to play with it some more. Are you going to let me do it so Beth can get the promotion? Or are you going to send me away?" She said softly, "Think before you say no, because this will be your last opportunity to say yes." I looked at Mary, who was looking at me with lust in her eyes, and replied, "Mary, I love my wife very much, and she really wants this promotion." Mary replied, "Derek, it's just sex. I love my husband very much too." With those words, she pulled me into the shade of the porch. She raised her hand and let the dress she was wearing slip off her shoulders and fall to her waist. Then she reached up and unbuckled my belt, undid the buttons on my pants, and pulled my pants and boxer briefs down to my hips. Then she turned her attention back to my body. I looked up. Standing in the doorway was Beth, with a smile on her face. She winked at me again, gave me a thumbs up, and turned to go inside. I was shocked that she was so happy to see another woman cheating with me. Mary pulled away from my body and stood up. She let her dress slide down her body and fall at her feet. She stepped out of it and walked over to the padded chaise lounge. Her body was incredible. I watched her walk to the chair and saw that she was truly a classic beauty. She lay down on the chaise lounge and gestured for me to come over to her. I took off my shoes, stepped out of my pants, and walked over to the chaise lounge. She reached up and pulled my shirt down over my head. I was now completely naked on the back porch of Beth's boss's house, getting ready to have sex with his wife. I started kissing Mary's breasts. Mary let out a whisper, "Shh." I kissed her firm, flat stomach. Mary was in great shape. I started having sex with her and enjoyed it with her. Her skin glistened in the moonlight, and she looked beautiful. I looked out on the balcony and saw some movement. Tom and Beth were there. They were leaning on the railing, talking, and watching their spouses having sex just 20 feet away. Beth just smiled at me. I continued to have sex and didn't notice anything around me. Afterward, Mary leaned forward and whispered in my ear, "That was amazing. Do you think our audience enjoyed the show?" I looked back. Tom and Beth were still standing there watching. Mary stood up and walked over to her dress and put it back on. Then she walked over to Tom and Beth. She kissed Tom and then said to Beth, "You have a terrific husband that you should be proud of. He is very loving and supportive of you. Please excuse me while I go clean up." I got up from the chaise lounge and walked over to my pants lying on the balcony. Beth walked over to me and kissed me deeply. I know she must have felt the taste of Mary on my tongue. She said, "That was amazing. You are such a sexy man. I thought I would be very jealous watching you cheat on me with another woman, but I'm actually very turned on." Her breasts were showing through the silk of her dress. She whispered to me, "I'm all horny." I reached around her and unzipped the zipper on the dress and let it fall to her waist. Her breasts now glistened in the moonlight. Beth reached for the hem of her dress and pulled it up to her waist. She leaned over the railing and said, "Make love to me now." I did what she told me to do. It was wonderful, and we had a lot of fun. When it was over, she stood up, let her dress fall down, and pulled it up to cover her breasts. I reached for my pants and pulled them up again. She said, "Now I need to get cleaned up. Are you ready to go home yet?" I replied, "Any time, baby." She left for the house, and I stood at the railing and waited. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I had sex with another woman while my wife watched, and not only was she not mad, she was even turned on by it. Beth came back and said, "Let's go home. I want to make love to you again. I promised I'd take care of you, didn't I?" I replied, "I think you kept your promise, but if you don't think so, I'm sure we can make you feel good about it." We walked into the house, and there appeared to be several couples having sex at various stages. I had never seen so many women and guys in one room. We went to the front door, and Tom and Mary were there. They asked, "Leaving so soon?" Beth answered them. "Derek and I have some unfinished business at home that needs to be taken care of." Tom smiled and said, "I understand. I guess we'll see our new senior vice president at work on Monday then." Beth smiled and enthusiastically replied, "Yes, sir, I'll be there." Mary hugged each of us and said, "I look forward to having you two at our next party." Beth looked at me and said, "Oh, we'll be here. There's no way we're going to miss this event. The end! Subscribe to my channel. Thank you."